History remembers the facts, but what about the phantoms that refuse to be forgotten? Welcome back to The Common Historian, where history meets the supernatural. I'm Jeremy, and each week we explore the haunted intersections between our past and the paranormal. Tonight, I'm joined by the Haunted Boys to uncover the spine-chilling investigations at some of America's most notorious haunted locations. So grab your favorite beverage, dim the lights, and prepare to journey into a world where history refuses to stay buried. How did you get started in paranormal investigation, and what drew you to combine humor with ghost hunting?
I was actually really scared of all of this when I was younger. And then actually my dad got me into it by exploring more and more into it. I actually was watching Sam and Colby. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I was watching a lot of them and they actually gave me a confidence boost to go out and do it myself. I was like, this is a little interesting. And I got into it. And then I had like one of my first experiences. I'm like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. And then I got more and more into it.
Sam and Colby, I don't know if anyone has not heard of them. They're quite huge. How do you balance the serious aspect of paranormal investigation with keeping your audience entertained?
I would say when we are in a serious situation where we're getting response after response on the spirit box, we would actually like focus and get that done more so when we're doing something like the REM pod going off a lot. We just stay focused. But when nothing is really happening, that's when you can draw the viewers in more with humor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, I think that ghost hunting isn't as exciting sometimes as it's seen on TV.
Mhm. You can sit there for hours and hours and not get anything.
When investigating older locations, do you find that knowing the history changes how you approach the investigation?
I would say yes, because saying you know the history, then you know their names, what happened at this location, the dark past of it. But if you don't, then you would actually have to discover that yourself. Go in, try to find out their names, try to find out what happened.
So it sounds like you like knowing before you go in. I know some teams like to not know anything.
Yeah. I think it depends on the location. Like, say, for instance, like Penhurst, that we went to it. I wanted to know that information before I went in so I could see if I can get in contact with the spirits. But if it's a house, for instance, you go into, I would not know that information. Go in there, discover it, and after research, check it, see if all that information actually like stacked up.
Have you ever encountered spirits that seemed tied to a specific historical event or time period?
Not that can recall. I think every place that we've actually been was, I mean, it could be tied to the place. Most recently, actually, a video I just posted yesterday, we went to a graveyard and there was this girl on the spirit box that was like repeating and repeating how she died, like in an attic and stuff from the
Oh,
US Army or something. Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting.
What's the oldest location you've investigated, and did you feel a connection to that historical past when investigating?
It would probably be Penhurst by now. Yeah, it'd probably be Penhurst. I didn't really feel a connection, but you could definitely feel the heavy feeling of being in some of the spots, like the underground parts, the tunnels and stuff.
So let's talk about Penhurst Asylum. That place has such dark history of patient mistreatment. And you mentioned a little bit. Could you go a little more into, did you feel the weight of the tragedy during the investigation? What did
Yeah,
that kind of feel like?
some spots like in the upper Mayflower building, I was actually alone in some part toward the upper story toward the end, and you could definitely feel a heavy feeling. Like in one part, that's where I suppose its shadow figure is supposed to be. I was just sitting down, REM pod was going off, and sometimes I felt a heavy presence from the doorway and in the infirmary. It was heavy in there too.
I've never been to Penhurst. I do more of the history. I don't do the investigating, but it is on my bucket list.
It's recommended. It was on my bucket list, and we did it. It wasn't disappointing.
The Sorrel Weed House in Savannah has layers of history from slavery to Civil War era. How did the complex history backdrop affect your investigation?
I did a little research before going into the spot. It was a little weird how we did it because we did a public tour, so you couldn't really stay in a spot for as long as we needed to be. But yeah, it was definitely interesting with the history and stuff. I think we got a few things with the actual people there. And yeah, responses came through.
Nice. the the Stovall Haunted Bridge, often becomes paranormal due to the tragic events there. What was unique about your experience there?
That was a really interesting place because we sat there for maybe an hour, not much happened. But then we were sitting there with the spirit box on. Someone was under the Exorcist method, and they were just saying, get out, you need to leave." And then we heard tapping from underneath the bridge too. And the cat ball went off too, which is something I like because the cat ball is harder to set off. But when it gets set off, you know that something's actually touching.
So, of the locations that you have investigated, which had the most active paranormal energy?
Most active paranormal energy. The May Stringer house was a really interesting place that we went to. It's on, I think it's the West Coast of Florida. It was really interesting because we were sitting up in the attic and I had the headphones on with the spirit box and it said, "I'm coming." And then in the video, you can hear footsteps going up the stairs, clear as day, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stop. And it said, "I'm here."
Wow, that must have been kind of on the scary side.
Yeah, they were freaking out. I'm like, "What's happening?" Because I took the headphones off because I can't hear anything.
Can you walk us through your typical investigation process? Do you start with historical research or do you jump straight into the paranormal side?
I do historical research, but I try to spread it out through the video. I start with a little bit so it draws attention, like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing with history. And then you jump into, say, a part of the investigation. And then I mention something in the investigation, and then it goes back to history, and then it goes just
Back
throughout the
and
video.
forth.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good flow because I know sometimes if you get into too much history at the beginning, you're going to lose interest. You might lose the interest of your viewers. And so kind of mixing it's a good strategy, I think.
Mhm.
What equipment do you rely on most? And have you ever captured something that generally surprised you?
What I rely on most is probably basic ones like the REM pod and the spirit box. But like I said earlier, I do really like the cat ball because when it gets touched, you know it's being touched. And it's just like, because you can tap something near the section and the cat ball doesn't go off, but it just randomly goes off. That's how you know something's actually there. In St. Augustine Lighthouse, I was alone and I had my camera pointing toward a mirror. I saw a big shadow figure behind me, and you can kind of see it in the video.
Oh, well, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's actually more toward the end of the video.
Towards the, how do you distinguish between natural phenomenon and potentially supernatural activity?
So, say we're in a place like the jail we went to, you could hear a tap on the window, but that could also just be like a truck going by because that jail is actually set up where it's right here, and then the road is literally just right here. So there could be a truck going by knocking on the window, or say an AC goes off and you hear tapping. That could just be the vents expanding. So you try to debunk as much as possible.
You're always debunking. So, what's been your most spine-tingling moment during an investigation so far?
Probably the shadow figure that was behind me. That sent a chill down my spine. And actually, another thing about the lighthouse is I was upstairs and they were downstairs in the video. If you match it up perfectly, you could see a light, like a really bright light, looking like it's coming down the stairs. They thought it was me, but I was actually on the other side of the house. So there was just a random light that just shined down there, and the road is far away.
So, it couldn't have been a car or anything like
Yeah,
that.
it was creepy.
So, have you ever investigated a location where the historical tragedy was so intense it seems to fuel the paranormal activity?
I wouldn't say as far. I was expecting Penhurst to do that, but we didn't really get anything too negative in Penhurst. It was mostly positive stuff. I thought it was going to be, since of the tragic past and stuff, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it was actually pretty light.
What's the funniest or most unexpected thing that's happened during an investigation?
Probably the funniest was at the St. Augustine Lighthouse. Me and my friend are scared of heights, and we had to go up onto the lighthouse. And we were going to do an investigation up there. We were just too scared because it's a high place and we don't like heights. But we did eventually go in there alone, both of us, and we did an investigation in there. It was creepy because ghosts and heights.
I'm not a fan of heights. So, what advice would you give someone just starting in paranormal investigation?
I would say start out small with some small places. Don't assume everything is going to be a ghost or expect everything to happen all at once like it does on TV or YouTube videos. It takes time to get evidence, and not everything's going to happen all at once. So you have to have patience.
I know I do have quite a few paranormal teams that subscribe to me. Most of the ones that do subscribe to me are very much into the history and the paranormal. So, are there any historically significant haunted locations on your bucket list that you're dying to investigate?
There's a place actually in England that's a ancient Ram Inn. It's a pretty popular location. I do really want to go there, and some castles over there too are pretty cool.
They're on my bucket list, and actually, a cheap plug. I have an ancient Ram in short coming out in the next couple weeks. So,
I'll check it out.
um, let's see here. So, what is next for the Haunted Boys? Any exciting investigations or projects our audience should watch for?
Right now, as I am in school, it's harder to plan out this stuff, but we might go to New Jersey soon, and there might be a place up there that has, I don't want to say the name yet because I don't want to spoil it. It's like 4 stories, and we might be there for like 5 hours. Might be an interesting video. There's actually a murder mystery in there too. I searched up the place, and they don't really know who murdered the person, so that could be figure that out too.
So, where can the listeners find the Haunted Boys on social media or YouTube?
You could go to YouTube, search up The Haunted Boys. It's 2 Y's, 1 Z at the end because the other ones are taken. Also on Instagram, I have that. I have Ryder RMP. I post there for when we do investigations. I post background stuff. And then The Haunted Boys, 2 Y's, 1 Z on Instagram, 2 separate accounts.
Well, I thank you for doing this interview. Sounds like you have some exciting stuff coming up. The past may be gone, but its spirits live on. Thank you for joining me on this haunted history adventure. Make sure to check out the Haunted Boys on YouTube for their latest paranormal investigations. I will have the links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to The Common Historian for more stories where history and mystery collide. Keep exploring the shadows, and I'll see you next Saturday.